Hi, welcome to Sideline Shenanigans. I have Coach Derek Dean here. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey, Brian. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Coach, let's start with the beginning. What got you into coaching high school football in the first place? Was there a moment or a person that really sparked it?
Yeah, for me, my high school football coach, Troy Burgess, which was an almost never happened story. The guy that coached football at my high school had been at my high school for a long time, coached my brother, coached my uncle in state championship games, and he was kind of what I saw as high school football and what I envisioned my experience being is I was going to play for Coach Wildman, and I was going to go to a state championship just like the rest of my family had before me. Um, he had a cool tradition where he had eighth graders be the ball boys and water boys. I was lucky enough to be one of those kids that was chosen to do that. And in the sectional game, after they lost their final game, he told the whole team that he's retiring. And I thought football was over for me at that point. Went home, cried to my parents. It was a hard day for Coach Dean that day. But my parents kind of talked me off the ledge and said, "Hey, you don't even know who the new coach is going to be. You need to give him a shot." And I was really glad I did. Troy has turned into more than a coach for me. He's like a second dad, a best friend. I talk to him every day. I'm talking to him currently. Actually, I'm sitting here texting him about just some random stuff. But that's how it is. And that relationship that I have with my coach is what drives me to coach, and it inspires me to mentor young people and do what I do. He's meant so much to me. He's meant so much to so many other people that I've seen him impact through his coaching. And I aspire to be as close to that guy as I can because I think he walks on water. I mean, if he called me and asked me to hide a body with him, there would be no questions asked. We'd be going to hide the body. He's my ride or die. He's a mentor to me, like I said, a father figure to me. And he's somebody that I know no matter what happens or no matter what decisions I make, he's always going to have my back. And that means a lot to me. And I just hope to be something similar to that to the kids that I come in contact with because I think every kid deserves a coach or a person in their life just like that. So for me, it's Troy Burgess, and I can't say thank you enough to him for helping me get where I'm at today.
I yeah, that's perfect. Perfect. Discipline's a big part about football, but so is connection. How do you walk the line between being tough and being understanding?
Yeah, for me, it's all about relationships. I'm definitely a relationship type coach. You know, I'm not a dictator. I don't walk around trying to rule by fear. I think building relationships with your players is really important. When you build relationships with players and show them that you care, they'll do anything for you. If they know that you have their back and are in their corner, um, they'll do anything that you ask them to do, man. They go out there, they play hard and do stuff for you. And once you build up that relationship, it gives you a little bit of leeway to get into guys and hold them accountable. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of kids are really actually looking for that accountability in life, you know, and standards to meet. I've ran into very few times when I've set my standards with my program and had kids kind of push back, and they might push back in the beginning when it's uncomfortable. But once they understand what's going on and that I care about them, that I'm there to help them out and make them be the best versions of themselves, they get in line and things go really smoothly. And when you are doing all the right things off the field, a lot of times success follows on the field.
All right, coach, talk to me about your off season. What does the work behind the scenes look like when the lights aren't on and no one's in the stands?
Yeah, so I start with a self scout of our season. So I've watched hours and hours of our film from this year, just trying to find out where things went wrong, where we might need to make some changes, adjustments, maybe adjustments in player position, trying to put our kids in the best positions to succeed. We got to get into the weight room. We've been in the weight room all year round. That's a 365-day a year thing for us. We live 3 times a week, and that's kind of a non-negotiable for me. We're going to be in the weight room. We got to get bigger, stronger, and faster. I think you can see that when we're out on the field. A lot of times we are kind of the smaller physical team there, so we got to get faster. We got to get stronger. It's never hurt anybody being faster or stronger. And then we have a couple of non-contact periods that were allowed by the IHSA, which is really cool because when I was in high school, when football season was over, football was over until the summer. We get 2 6-week periods over the off season, one in the winter, one in the spring, where we're able to not be in pads or anything, but we can have footballs out. Coaches can be on the field, giving instruction and refining skills. So we did that. The first 6 weeks was really skill-based for us. We did a lot of stuff with the linemen, working footwork, stuff like that. Receivers and quarterbacks, a lot of throwing and a lot of catching, working on timing, all that good stuff. And then the second 6 weeks is going to be a lot of install for us. So we're going to install our offense, install our defense, and have that stuff ready to go so we can really hammer down in the summer. We're not going to have to spend as much time in the summer teaching the stuff or reteaching the stuff to guys. They're already going to have that time taken care of. We'll get the pads on and we'll get rolling. And then summer, we're going to go 3 days a week. 2 of those will have football included. The third one will just be lifting and conditioning, but lifting and conditioning the other 2 days as well. Got some summer scrimmages that I'm really looking forward to. We were able to get with a couple schools last year. We're going to get with a lot of those same schools this year, kind of building relationships with people kind of outside of our area, seeing teams that we don't necessarily see during the season. But it's good to go around the state and see what the competition looks like, and it gives our guys a chance to compete against somebody different, but also kind of start that competition in the summer. That's kind of sometimes hard to get when you're just going against each other.
Absolutely, Coach. Now, my next question is offense or defense?
Well, I started out as a defensive coordinator. I played defense. When I became a head coach, I started calling the offense. I don't know if that was the right thing or the wrong thing. To play defense, to coach, probably offense. I like to score points.
Oh, yeah.
But I understand it takes both. One without the other doesn't work. They work in conjunction with each other. So I'm probably a little biased because I call the offense now. But I do know that defense is extremely important. You got to be able to keep people off the board. But, as an offense, you have a chance to play a little bit of defense yourself, keeping a hold of the ball, controlling the ball, being able to run the football and stuff like that. So both important. We spend equal time on each. We don't favor one or the other. Our kids know the expectations on both sides of the ball, and we try to stick to those the best we can.
How do you handle leadership on your team? Do you have captains, a leadership council, or is it more organic?
Yeah, so we do have captains. Last year, I let the team choose, and I've always let the team choose in the beginning. I'm going to try something a little different this year. If any kids listen to this, they're going to kind of get a little insight. But I'm kind of keeping a point tally on certain things, right? Are guys showing up? Are they doing extra work? Are they getting their lifts in? Are they involved in another sport, or are they just sitting at home doing nothing? So I'm kind of keeping this little tally in my own head. We're going to talk with the coaches out there, and we're going to kind of just see organically if we have some guys emerge as leaders on our team. It's going to be something that we're really looking forward to. We have one captain coming back. Denton Simmons was a junior last year, was a captain, but the 3 others were all seniors and graduated. And our senior class in general was where a lot of our leadership was because we were so young. A lot of our guys were sophomores and freshmen last year. Juniors and freshmen. So those juniors have always kind of looked up to the senior class. So none of them have really had to step up into leadership roles because they've always had that senior class that was full of strong leaders in front of them. So it's going to be just looking to see what guys stick out. And for me, it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, if you're a sophomore, junior, senior. We need leaders on this team, and anybody can be a leader. And being a leader doesn't necessarily mean the guy that's the most vocal, the guy that's the rah-rah guy. You can lead without ever saying a word. Lead through your actions. Lead through the way that you do things, the way that you handle yourself, the way you act in school, the way you approach school from a grade standpoint. There's a lot of things that go into leadership. It's not just the guy who's the loudest. So I'm kind of keeping my tally as we go through the summer. And like I told the team, I said, guys, if I don't feel like we've got one, we may go a week-to-week thing. There may be a guy that has a really strong week, and those guys are and that guy's the captain for that week. But it was kind of a challenge to the team, right? Like, who's going to step up, right? I don't want it to be a popularity contest or anything like that. I want to see the leadership. I want to be able to feel that leadership come from those guys, and I think that there'll be 3 or 4 guys that step up and really take hold of those leadership roles. And like I said, they may not be the loudest guys,
Right.
but those guys sometimes that aren't very loud are the guys that everyone on the team respects.
Absolutely. Let's paint a picture for the listeners. How would you describe the culture of Attica football to someone who's never seen it up close? Like, for example, I've seen it way up close. I'm alumni. I've seen like Coach Good, Coach Schmid. Tell me
Yeah.
how the Derek Dean Attica football is.
Yeah. Well, obviously, as you know, being so close, the program's kind of been in a little bit of disarray. So I think that we're building culture, kind of the culture that was here under Ryan Good, kind of got erased, not by anybody necessarily doing something wrong, but just the fact that the turnover was there. And the
Mhm.
way that I do things and the culture that I want to bring is a culture of family, right? Brotherhood. We're going to go out there. We're going to love each other. We're going to give each other our all. And that's what it's about, man. We may not all be friends, but when we get on that field, we put on those jerseys and we're on the field, man, you better not mess with any of us. Because if you mess with one of us, you get all of us. So we really just try to
Absolutely.
preach a mentality of family, hard work. I want to go out and I want to outwork everybody that we do, that we play, and that's winning the day each day. We're going to get better, 1% better every day. But I also want a culture where kids feel comfortable to make mistakes and allow coaches to coach. I think there's in this day and age, we have some coaches out there that have almost made kids scared to make mistakes because they're worried about getting screamed at, yelled at, berated
Mhm.
in front of all their friends. And I don't think that is the case. I tell the kids all the time, control the controllables. So you control your attitude, you control your effort. If you do those things, I'm not going to scream at you. I'm going to scream at you when your attitude and your effort sucks. But if you make a mistake, the reason I have a job is because you're not perfect. It's my
Right.
job to coach you and help you fix those mistakes. And I want kids to be able to play free and not feel like they've got this weight weighing them down. Right? I want them to be out there and know that if they mess up, we're not gonna beat them down. We're not gonna belittle them, anything like that. We're gonna help them be better. We're gonna actually coach them and help them get to where they want to be.
All right, coach. What's a core lesson that football has taught you? Something you try to pass on to every player that comes through your program?
Man, that's tough. Uh, Probably life's not fair. A lot of times in this game of football, you may feel like you're the best one or whatever, but a coach has a different philosophy. Maybe you don't fit into that philosophy. Maybe you get hurt, and it's just some freak accident, and adversity happens. And so life's not fair. Adversity is always going to be there. How are you going to work through that adversity? I think that's one of the biggest things that football does for young kids is football's hard and it's not for everybody. You go out there during the summer, it's 100 degrees. What our kids don't understand is this is going to be their first summer on the turf. That turf's pretty
Mhm.
hot, pretty hot
Yo,
during the summer. It's going to be really hot, and it's going to be tough. But it teaches you how to get through those adversities, overcome those adversities, and when things don't always go your way, how you handle that, and how you get back up and keep working and keep going. And the game of football is really good about that. Football will humble you really quickly. A good example for me was as I was getting recruited for colleges, these D3 schools are coming. I'm like, what D3? Like, come on now. I'm better than this, right? And I think that's what every kid thinks. I got
right.
there and realized that there are dogs at every single level. And at high school, you are usually a big fish in a small pond, and all those big fish from all those small ponds feed into those college programs, and then you're in a smaller pond with a lot of really big fish.
Right.
So, yeah, man, football is a great game. Teaches a lot of wonderful life lessons. But I think just dealing with adversity and knowing that, like I said, life isn't always fair, um, and how you handle those things, and I think a big thing is you just control what you can control, and usually life takes care of itself.
All right, coach. I like that answer. I really do. We live in a winner go home culture, but how do you define success at this level? What really matters to you at the end of the day?
At the end of the day, man, is that we've got kids that leave our program better than we found them. And that's not just from a football thing, that's in life. I want guys to leave our program and go be great in business, go to whatever college they want to, be successful in work, be successful in raising a family, be successful as a father, be lights in our community, right? I don't want guys coming out of our program, that are causing issues, anything like that. So success for me, man, is taking young people and molding them into the best versions of themselves, so that they can go and be successful in whatever it is they want to do in life. I stress a bunch to our guys that if we take care of things that really matter off the field, the winning will happen on the field. But if we can't be good people, have common decency off the field, or we're not disciplined off the field and doing our homework, showing up to school on time, being respectful to our parents, how are we going to be able to be respectful to your coaches? How are you going to be able to be respectful to officials, respectful to your opponents, and disciplined to not make mistakes on the football field? So all those things in life that I think lead to successful life and outside of the field also translate right onto the field. So we really focus on just trying to help young people become the best version of themselves, and do everything we can to make those young people better than we found them.
Right. Can you tell us about a player who really grew during their time with you, not just on the field, but as a person?
Man, it's hard to pick one because they all grow in different ways, right? I think a young gentleman, I won't mention the name, but we have a young gentleman who's a freshman on our football team this year. I got to Attica and I heard all these horror stories about him and all the trouble he got into. Actually, got kicked off the football team as an 8th grader. And I got to get pretty close with this young man. I've seen a huge change in him. The teachers are just over the moon about the potential that this kid has. I mean, he can really, if he can continue on the path that he's in, he's going to be someone who can have a huge impact on Attica from a leadership standpoint inside of the classroom, and hopefully on the football field for us as well. He doesn't always have the easiest go at home, but he's making his way. He's doing his thing, and I've noticed a huge amount of growth in that young man. And he's done a really good job, and I look forward to seeing what the next 3 years hold and where he goes. But I like the path that he's on. He's really kind of turned some stuff around. Not the beginning of the year, I was getting emails probably once a week about the distractions in class and stuff. But now, he's the kid that teachers look to help with stuff after class. They know if they ask him to do something, he's going to do it for them. And he's come a long way. So that's a good story for me. Those are the kind of things that really mean a lot to me. It's really easy to usually your best kid is also your best kid off the field, right? And they do everything right, and they're going. But when you see kids like that and you see a real impact outside of football, and other people start to recognize that, I think that's really special. So I'm really looking forward to where that young man goes.
All right. Coach, I imagine you wear more hats than just coach. How do you see your role in these kids' lives outside of football?
Yeah, man, I try to be there for them and whatever they need. If that's an ear to listen to, a sounding board from some advice and decisions that's going on, a mentor, guys that are looking forward to, going to the next level in football, be there to help them along that journey. I'm lucky enough to have gotten to play at the next level. So, wear them all. It's just being adaptable to the kids and what they need. Not every kid needs advice. Not every kid needs someone to listen to. Sometimes they need someone to kind of give them a swift kick in the butt. You help with a lot of things. I mean, there were so many different situations throughout this season where I was doing more than just being coach. But your job as a coach is to serve your players. So it's really adapting to what your players need. So I do that. And then for me, man, I just try to live out the things that I preach, being on time, being disciplined and stuff like that. I just try to set a really good example for our players of the things that I'm preaching to them, what it looks like in real life and what it looks like to be loyal, to be disciplined, to work hard. And I hope that they see that in me, and it rubs off on them a little bit. But like I said, just being adaptable, being able to
Mhm.
give your kids what they need, whether that's going and having lunch with the kid, going and getting breakfast with a kid, staying after practice, just talking about stuff, whatever's going on at home and stuff. But just being there for them, and that really goes along with the
Mhm.
relationship piece of building relationships with your players, and it makes it a little easier to wear those hats. But yeah, a lot of time coaching is the last hat you put on. That kind of comes just at
Right,
practice and
right,
stuff.
right.
But as soon as that stuff's over, it's whatever your kids need. We're here as coaches to serve our kids, and that's what I think that I try to do with my program, and I try to encourage all my coaches to do as well.
All right, coach. How do you define progress as a program? What tells you things are heading in the right direction beyond the win loss column?
Yeah, I think an easy way to do that is buy-in, right? As you're talking about your vision and where you'd like to see the program going, are kids buying into it? Are the kids really starting to live this culture that we're trying to push? And I think that we are moving in the right direction. For me, um, watching film when I was self-scouting, it was really easy to see that we're not as far off as we think we are from on an
Right.
on-field standpoint. But even off the field, right? I don't know what the offseason stuff has looked like here in the past over the last 3 or 4 years, but I don't imagine they've had 12 to 15 kids in the morning at 6:30 when it's freezing cold and snowing outside on
Mhm.
the football field doing work. I don't know that we have 7 to 8 guys that aren't in sports in the off season lifting weights, and we do now. So as we see these guys being more invested, more bought in, that's success, right? And then little things, right? I got here and dealt with it a lot last year. The grades on the team are not very good. We're still working on that one, but
Mhm.
they're getting better. So that's a one that's really easy and measurable, right? Discipline issues in school. I'm not getting as many emails about kids on the team as I was in the beginning of the season. So the
Mhm.
things that we're preaching, the things that we're trying to nail down on, I think are starting to come to fruition. But when you have all the overturn and changes that have happened, I'm
Mhm.
still not convinced that every kid believes that I'll be a head coach at Attica next year. But as long as Attica wants me back, my plan is to be the head coach at Attica.
I
So
I will say I do have friends. I know I'm like 6 years older than them, but they still text me, "Hey B, how you doing?" You
yeah,
know. But I think Attica's going in the right direction, and I really enjoy it.
yeah, we're
Coach, now
trying, man.
can you tell me about your favorite memory from this past season?
Favorite memory for me this past season, yeah, came in our last game. Um, Dane Goris scored the first Attica touchdown on the new field, and I can't think of a better kid to have that happen to.
Great kid.
Dane has been, I think, what the definition of what it means to be an Attica Rambler his whole career, man. And unfortunately for that young man, it's not worked out the way he wanted in the win and loss column. There's probably a lot of things that he would have loved to have go better. This year, it was injuries. We could not keep him healthy, man. And they were things that didn't even really
Mhm.
have to do with football. A lot of his stuff was non-contact with his knees, stuff he couldn't control, man. But he was rehabbing, doing everything, and he scored with about 2 minutes to go in the fourth quarter on like a 25-yard scramble. And man, I just couldn't help but cry. Just hugged that kid because this year wasn't what he wanted, but to be able to cap it off that way was really special for me, and I think a lot of guys on our team felt the same way. Um, to see Dane have that moment to kind of cap his career was really really special.
Absolutely. Dane's a great kid. Shout out to Dane if you're listening. You're a good kid. I Yeah, I appreciate knowing you. You're a good kid. All
He
right,
sure is, man.
Coach. Where do you see the program going in the next 5 to 10 years? What's the vision and what steps are you going to take? What are you taking to get there?
Yeah, I don't necessarily always look 5 to 10 years out, but my thing is just to continue to build on what we're building on. Get back Attica football back to where I believe that it deserves to be. In the years of Ryan Good and even before Coach
Mhm.
Good, in the early 2000s, the success that they had going to a state championship and stuff. For me, the goal and the standard is always going to be the same, and that's win championships. And we're going to do all the little things that I believe lead to those things. We're going to win off the field. We're going to be disciplined. We're going to outwork everybody, and we're going to go there. So my hope is in the next 5 to 10 years, we're a team that's constantly competing for the WRC. Everybody knows when Attica's coming to town, you better be ready. You better be buckled up because we're going to be a physical, disciplined team that's going to give it all you got, and we're going to be scrappy. I think that's a big thing here. We don't have a ton of kids on our team, but we have some scrappers and some guys that will really go and give it all they got. And I think kind of our strength comes in being small and kind of being the underdog and embracing that underdog mentality of no one expects anything of us. We're going to go show them. So that's along with the family stuff. That's kind of the culture and the mindset that we're trying to bring to Attica. And hopefully over the next 5 to 10 years, we see that happen. And Attica is back to being a contender for championships, and winning comes back. And I think not just winning on the field, but continuing to produce good young men that are going out into the world and making a difference and being successful there as well.
All right, Coach Dean, I think that'll do it for us. I appreciate you coming on. Hopefully I can catch a game here soon.
Yeah, man. Welcome to come anytime you want. I know I wasn't around when you were playing, but I do believe in family and alumni, man. I would love to get the alumni around town more involved. Come up, see me at games. I'm always open to talk. Love for you guys to be as involved as you can be.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Take it easy, man.
You too.